Hi friends, it's Deanna Willison from Our Blooming Catholic Life, and I just wanted to do a short video on Saint Kateri because it's her feast day. I hadn't even planned this lesson, but I did want to talk about an aspect of Saint Kateri that you don't really hear talked about much. So I have been to both her American shrine, both American shrines, I guess. So there's one in Auriesville, which is the Shrine of the North American Martyrs, and that's actually the site of the village where she was born. So she was born on soil, right, that had the blood of the martyrs in it, the Jesuit martyrs of North America. And that is a very powerful story. That's not what we're talking about. Lovely place. I encourage you to go, donate, pray for the area around that shrine. It really needs some prayers right now, and you can find all that online elsewhere. Then she moved in, she was born there, right? She had smallpox. Most of her family passed away. God bless their souls. And she was taken in by her uncle, who was a chief of a nearby village in Fonda. And currently, that shrine is run by Franciscan friars, OFM conventional. And it is a beautiful, holy place there as well. That is the village where she was raised. That is the village where she became a Christian. That is the village. The woods behind it is where she was baptized. There's a beautiful, beautiful little area in the back where they have this spring that comes out where she was baptized. There's a little statue of her there, and birds like to make nests in her little shrine there. It's really lovely. They have a candle shrine there. Right now, I know things are kind of closed up, but that candle shrine is open for just 1 or 2 people at a time, and the grounds are out. They're lovely. They're beautiful this time of year. So that is up in Fonda, New York. Now, why I bring this up is, why is her shrine run by Franciscans? Now, I'm not sure of the technicality, right? The original one was, they were both Native American village sites. So how did they even get custody of them? That's a talk for another day. One was then had under the custody of the Jesuits. It's since been given to the diocese, and some of that land was given to another group, and that is the group I especially ask that you pray for. Now, the shrine in Fonda, New York, currently run by Franciscans, like I just said. And Franciscans are tied with ecology and the environment and caring for Mother Earth. And in fact, St. Kateri is considered a co-patron of ecology and the environment with St. Francis. Why would she get that title? Was she known, like St. Francis, to either ask the animals, you know, God, I need to hear God's word now, or to ask the birds to pray with her and sing praises and glory to God? Was she known for a connection with animals? She was from Turtle Clan, so there's lots of little turtle symbols all over her shrine. But, I mean, lots of people were in that tribe, right? And you don't hear that they're saints or patron saints of ecology, so there's got to be more than that. And in fact, after she was baptized, there was, times were hard for Christians in her village, and so she fled along with many of them to a little, it was a Christian / native village up at, I think, south of Montreal, Canada, and that is actually where she passed away 5 years later. So she was only 24 when she passed away up there, and the people knew of her. They knew that she was holy, but even then she kept slipping off into the woods to be with her bridegroom. She had consecrated herself as a virgin, so she was actually a consecrated virgin for Christ. And people don't really talk about that much, but that is a big deal. This was in like the 1600s, right? That's a big deal. And she was a chief's adopted daughter. She was his niece, and then she was his adopted daughter. That was a big deal. That's like a princess saying, no, I'm gonna go with Jesus. No, like, that's not really looked highly upon. She was expected to do other things, to be like the treaty, to, you know what I mean, right? It's for status. And much like St. Francis, I think they expected him to marry up, right? And St. Clare, they expected her to marry up. They expected them to do great things. And St. Kateri was very much like them, and she was like, no, my bridegroom is Christ. He's it for me. He's my everything. And she was known as to be a very, very hard worker. But do we hear her like going out and planting trees? Is she like a Johnny Appleseed? We don't hear about that. We don't hear about her gardening. We know that she did, I think, very good basket work. And one of the interesting things about her, this picture shows her in her glorified state, but in fact, from when she was little and had smallpox, she had a great deal of scarring on her face and possibly some damage to her eyes. And she wore a blanket up over her head most of the time. Some people theorize that was because the scarring was so great and she was humiliated by it. Other people hypothesize that it had to do with her eyes being very sensitive to light, again, damage from the smallpox. We don't know. Perhaps it was some combination of things. Nuns tend to wear that in humility, not really because of scarring, or, we're totally not saying nuns are ugly here, because so many of them are completely beautiful. And there's a radiance that shines from nuns, even if they didn't start out physically beautiful. Sorry, nuns. Truth, right? Not everybody's perfect, but you don't see ugly nuns. They're all beautiful. And I think it does have to do with that radiance being the bride of Christ. And did St. Kateri wear that in humility? Like maybe she always felt. Her mother had been a Christian. Her mother was actually captured by the Mohawks. She was Algonquin, and she had been a Christian. And so possibly she had taught St. Kateri her prayers and things when she was little. And we all know it doesn't happen that often, but you hear of people who from a very young age feel the call of Jesus. And perhaps St. Kateri was one of those. And perhaps that was her humility. She was saving herself for Christ all along and trying to give a hint to the young men, like, off limits here, guys. Off limits. I'm different. And maybe that was the only way that she had. If you're on Catholic Twitter, you do hear of some little girls right now running around with dish towels and veils and things on their head saying that they are going to be nuns, that they're the bride of Jesus. So maybe that happened with St. Kateri. We don't know. That's not really recorded as to why she did that. But we do hear a lot about how she spent a lot of times in the woods. And that's where she would run as well when they would talk about marriage. It seems like in all the stories, they talk about her running off into the woods. And you would think that, okay, maybe she is pagan, like out there worshiping a tree god or something. But no, that seemed to be where she could go to spend time with Jesus. And you hear people talk about that. And to me, I almost wonder if she had lived longer, if things had been different, if there had been some convents near her. Like, would she have been a Poor Clare? Would she have lived in a community? It seems like she wanted to live the life of a consecrated virgin, almost like a hermit. Like the consecrated virgin that lives attached to a church, maybe. In solitude. She really wanted her time to be one-on-one with Jesus. And I just find that so beautiful. And the fact is that she was constantly going to the woods. I almost wonder that she just didn't want to be alone in God's creation, where she could see and hear him, the goodness, when God created it, and at the end of the day, he said it was good. And I feel like that is where St. Kateri could feel that goodness. And so she spent a lot of times outside. And so there is a program right now, I've talked about it before, the St. Kateri Habitat, where you can certify yourself a habitat, your yard, your school, your church, and it's supposed to be like a little garden space, and you should have like food, water, and shelter for animals, but you also need a reflective piece, because St. Kateri, when she went into the woods, she would spend time with her God. Offer that, a little bench, maybe a little statue of Our Lady, maybe have flowers that are dedicated to Our Lady. There are many flowers like marigolds named after Our Lady, so that would be easy to do. You could always have a grotto, a bathtub, grotto, whatever you need to help you reflect on God. Maybe you could have some handmade Stations of the Cross, right? She was said to have made little crosses out of wood, and the Black Robes, the Jesuits, were said to have carved little crucifixes into trees. So that is something that you could do as well. You can look up that program. But I just want to give you some thought. Do you take time out of your day to spend time with Christ? And if there's noise and bustle around you, or even in society, in your home, whatever, do you have a quiet space that you can go? This weekend I hosted some girlfriends, just two, and we were distant, out here on my porch to watch an online retreat. And this is my one little sanctuary out here. It looks a little messy, but in fact, the main room is kind of open. It is probably the neatest, cleanest space in the house, and I clean it up every night because this is my sacred space. This is where I come to do evening prayer. I do it on Zoom with my friends right now. And so just remember to carve yourself that little space, whether it's time and place, even if it's just the one neat place in your house that you can go to. Have a certain time of day where everybody knows this is my time that I need to spend one-on-one with Jesus. Absolutely family prayer, absolutely prayer with your spouse, but if you can have some one-on-one time with Jesus, at least once a day. At least once a day, give that to yourself. And that's it. They say Saint Kateri is patron saint of ecology environment, but I say that she's patron saint of spending one-on-one time listening to Jesus. God bless you, friends.